Hello, my name is Corinne, and my project is the Atlantic Complete Street in downstate Brooklyn. So, to start, as a brief overview, downstate Brooklyn has a lot of congestion due to high traffic, and a lot of the streets don't cater to bike users. So, a way to to improve that is by implementing complete streets. So, the scope of my project will be on Atlantic Avenue from Smith Street and Fourth Avenue, and the design will strictly focus on Bond and Hoyt Street. To start off with the ArcGIS map, there are a ton of subway lines within Brooklyn, and specifically on Atlantic Avenue. There's the Atlantic Avenue Barclays Center, which is a major hub that services multiple trains like the 2, 3, and 4. And right under it is the Atlantic Terminal, which services the Long Island Railroad trains. And some of the limits of Atlantic Avenue is that it's a major street for vehicular traffic, but it doesn't cater to pedestrians and cyclists. So there aren't bike lanes and it's dangerous intersections, which could lead to an increase in car accidents. So as mentioned before, my project will be right here between the two points from Fourth Avenue to Smith Street. So Atlantic Avenue initially was a private road ending at a farm owned by a man named Ralph Patchen, and it was overtaken by District Street in 1816, and it was named Atlantic Street in 1855, and finally became Atlantic Avenue in the 1870s. And originally, indigenous Lenape migrated to this area, so about 3,000 years ago, and a subtribe of the Lenape named the Munsee people lived in the majority of modern-day New York City and Brooklyn. Later on, Dutch colonists took over the settlement and created farms, and currently the demographic has evolved to a more diverse community. So the progression of transportation has been initially ferry and local roads to horse-drawn carriages to subways, and it is now a major street for public transportation and vehicles. For the scope of my project, there aren't many geographic constraints that would really affect the assign. So I will now get into the traffic transportation policy analysis. So three forms of government that could affect our transportation policies would be local, state, federal, and examples of each would be the mayor of New York City, NYS DOT, and the Federal Highway Administration. So there aren't many laws or regulations for complete streets and implementation in New York, but there was a Complete Streets Act that was implemented in 2011, stating that local, county, and state agencies should consider mobility of all users when designing transportation projects. And unfortunately, initial funding for complete street implementation is not provided, so this project could be expensive. So for now for the design, Atlantic Avenue is a major street that passes through parts of Queens and Brooklyn, and it carries users from the Brooklyn Queens Expressway to the Van Wyck Expressway, and it's roughly 10.3 miles long, as seen here as I scroll through. So it starts about right here and goes all the way down to here, to the 278. So the complexities is that it's a major hub, so it could cause significant traffic delays when implementing the new complete street system. And for the current design between Bond and Hoyt, it is 117 feet wide out to out, including the sidewalks. So the sidewalks are 11.5 feet wide, and there are 15.5 foot wide traffic lanes, and there's two 15.5 foot wide parking lanes and a 1 foot wide median. So for the new design, I would be proposing the 11.5 sidewalks would remain. I would be removing a vehicular lane to include the bike and scooter lane to accommodate more users, and that would be 11 feet wide. There would also there would also be the 15.5-foot parking lanes that would remain, and the 15.5-foot vehicular lanes would also remain. And then the median would be extended to 10 feet, and to help with aesthetic purposes, planters could be added. So some positive impacts would be that the new design would accommodate all users now, and that fulfills the complete street goal. But the negative impact is that the two lanes of vehicular traffic would now be converted to one, which could result in more traffic in peak hours. And any remaining problems would be that bike and scooter users could have potential safety issues since the lanes would be in between the traffic and parking lanes. So now for sustainability impacts, the equity and accessibility impacts would be that it caters to all users now, so pedestrians, bikers, drivers, buses, and more. And bikers would now have their own lane, which means that they don't have to share with drivers or pedestrians on sidewalks, and that would help decrease collisions if used correctly by all users, making the roadway on Atlantic Avenue safer. And for environmental impacts, it would encourage users to use different modes of transportation, which could help reduce air pollution since there would be less cars on the road. As for economic impacts, it would be a very pricey design to implement, but it would help with safety on Atlantic Avenue, which has been a common problem. So it would help all users overall. That's all for my project. Thank you for listening.